There are only a few things that are with us all our lives. One of them is games. We love playing games no matter how old we are, whether we are happy, sad, or just plain bored. And no matter how many different games we've played, we always crave something new and exciting. So here we are introducing a promising newcomer to the American market, the Novuss. It's an old European game that originated in England and has been around for a couple of centuries now. Novuss is an extremely simple but a very exciting game. Anyone who's ever played or even seen others play pool may consider themselves a Novuss master already. This game provides just as much entertainment as pool without high costs and the inconvenience of a full-size table. Playing Novuss is a perfect way to unwind and get away from everyday routine in the company of friends and family. You will enjoy playing it together for years to come. Thanks to the compact size of the game table, Novuss can be played practically anywhere and can easily be stored in your car, in a closet, or even under a bed. This game is universally accessible, providing equal excitement for adults and children, and even individuals with disabilities. We thank you for taking the time to watch this brief introduction and hope that it will spark your interest in this amazing game. The maximum number of players is 4. The table is divided into 4 play zones by the lines drawn on the surface from edge to edge. These rectangles are called edge zones. Each edge zone has another line in the middle. It's called a middle center line. The circle center mark in the center of the table is divided into 4 parts. All areas, including edge zones and the circle, are called blind zones. There are also red and black wooden discs, also known as rings or pucks, a striker, also known as a shooting ring, and a cue stick. Starting the game. In the elimination challenge, the right of the first move is usually determined by a coin toss. Sometimes players take turns hitting the striker. Whoever gets it to rebound the shortest distance from the opposite edge gets the first move in the game. Having determined the order of moves, players take places opposite each other and place 8 discs on the table in a continuous row. Discs must be touching each other and the board edge. There should be 4 discs on either side of the center line. Each player plays with the discs placed on the opposite side of the table. To make a strike, the striker is placed on the table so that its hole lies entirely within a blind zone. The striker is placed so that it is not in contact with any of the discs. The player's fingers should never touch the playing surface, only the board edge. A strike is considered completed if the cue stick has moved the striker. A strike should be made with the tip of the cue stick. After a successful strike, when 1 or more discs dropped into pockets, the same player takes the next turn. The player who pockets all of the discs first wins the game. A player is allowed to pocket their own discs with direct strikes, except those within blind zones. The player has a right to use a rebound strike to attack any discs anywhere on the table. Blind discs can be played. With the rebound, ricochet strike, the striker touches at least one edge of the board before hitting the disc. With the striker, after it touches a player's own disc outside the blind zone, using any discs as long as the striker first touches the player's own disc outside the blind zone. A player loses a turn and acquires a penalty disc if the striker drops into a pocket, the striker is driven off the table, with the direct strike the striker fails to touch any disc, with a direct strike the striker touches its own and opponent's disc simultaneously. With a direct strike, a player hits his own or the opponent's disc into a blind zone. When it happens, the disc is returned to its original position. With a direct strike, the opponent's disc is driven off the table. It is returned to its original position. With a direct or rebound strike, one of the player's own discs is driven off the table. Then this disc is put in the center of the circle. If the center of the circle is already occupied, the disc is placed on the center line, on the side that it had jumped over. In this case, the disc should lie entirely within the circle with its edge touching the border of the circle. If that point is also occupied, it is put on the next available point in the clockwise direction. If the penalized player has all 8 discs on the table, a penalty bet stands until discs are available. It is the opponent's responsibility to make sure the penalty discs are placed as soon as they become available. The penalty disc is put on the center line touching the edge board. If more than one disc needs to be placed, they are placed symmetrically on either side of the center line or as close as possible to the center line without moving any discs. The penalty disc is put out only after the player or the opponent has finished his turn. A player's turn is over when no discs have been pocketed, the opponent's disc is pocketed or the opponent's and own disc together. With a direct strike, the striker bounces back to the player's edge zone when there are discs outside blind zones. The disc is forced off the table. The player breaks any of the rules resulting in a penalty. For several rule infringements resulting from one strike, only one penalty disc is placed. In a doubles game, a team of 2 partners play opposite each other. The partners play the discs of one color. At the completion of a set, the starting position remains on the same side while players change places in a clockwise direction. Discs are set up by partners after they have changed places. All other rules are the same as above. The team which pockets all their discs first wins.